Hi guys, my name is Emily. Today is November 2nd. Today actually is November 2nd. I'm gonna have to film and edit this all in one day. We'll see how that goes. You might be watching this November 3rd. Top 5 Wednesday was created by Lainey from gingerreadslainey and is currently hosted by Sam from Thoughts on Tomes. Links to the Goodreads group are in the description box down below. Today's topic is books that have misleading plot synopses. So let's jump right in, and I'm gonna start with The Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow by Cory Doctorow. So the story is a sci-fi story sort of revolving around the ride in the Disney park. It's really weird, it's really fantastic, it's really short, and the back of the book doesn't really actually talk about the main story in here. It talks a lot about Cory Doctorow as an author who burst on the science fiction scene in 2004 like a runaway rocket, inspiring awe in readers and envy in other writers with his best-selling novels and stories, which he insisted on giving away via Creative Commons. Meanwhile, as a co-editor of the widely popular blog Boing Boing, he became the radical new voice of the web, boldly arguing for internet freedom from corporate control. Doctorow's activism and artistry are both on display in this outspoken author edition. The crown jewel is his novella The Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow, the high-velocity adventures of a transhuman teenager in a toxic post-Disney dystopia who is forced to choose between immortality and sex, and has fun doing it. That's the back of the book, and honestly, the synopsis of the book, like the little blurb, probably would have gotten me, right? Post-Disney, immortality, sex, those are kind of buzzwords that probably would prompt me to pick this up, but to make it through the whole paragraph and a half talking about the author himself, having never heard of Cory Doctorow before picking this up, I don't think I would have made it through the information on the author, and so I think this is kind of a poorly organized synopsis. My next is the plot synopsis of Arrows of the Queen by Mercedes Lackey. So it says, a kingdom imperiled, chosen by the companion Roland, a mythical horse-like being with powers beyond imagining, Talia, once a runaway, has now become a trainee herald, destined to become one of the Queen's own elite guard. For Talia has certain awakening talents of the mind that only a companion like Roland can truly sense. But as Talia struggles to master her unique abilities, time is running out, for conspiracy is brewing in Valdemar, a deadly treason which could destroy the Queen and Kingdom. Opposed by unknown enemies capable of both diabolical magic and treacherous assassination, the Queen must turn to Talia and the heralds for aid in protecting the realm and ensuring the future of the Queen's heir, a child already in danger of becoming bespelled by the Queen's own foes. This makes the book sound really epic, but the book is really boring, and the action is so meh. I read this and was actually genuinely disappointed. It's a lot of Talia learning to fit in. The actual climactic part of the plot feels really half-assed and randomly inserted. She was going along writing about this character and developing this character in this world and the bond to her magical horsey Roland, and then she was like, oh yeah, I promised them some action and adventure stuff. Let me include that in this really weird, convenient plot device. Ta-da! The novel ends. And you're like, what the fuck? This is not what I was promised based on the synopsis. I wish that the plot of the book had reflected the synopsis. The next book is something that I actually enjoyed, but I feel like the plot synopsis is misleading, and that is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. Every year, Blue Sargent stands next to her clairvoyant mother as the soon-to-be-dead walk past. Blue never sees them, until this year when a boy emerges from the dark and speaks to her. His name is Gansey, and he's a rich student at Aglionby? Okay, I've never actually read this out loud. He's a rich student at a private school. Blue has a policy of staying away from these boys. Known as the Raven Boys, they can only mean trouble, but Blue is drawn to Gansey in a way she can't entirely explain. He's on a quest that has encompassed 3 other Raven Boys. Adam, the scholarship student who resents the privilege around him, Ronan, the fierce soul whose emotions range from anger to despair, and Noah, the taciturn watcher who notices many things but says very little. For as long as she can remember, Blue has been warned that she will cause her true love to die. She doesn't believe in true love and never thought this would be a problem, but as her life becomes caught up in the strange and sinister world of the Raven Boys, she's not so sure anymore. So this makes it sound like it's really Blue's story. but it's really not. What you really get is a lot of flipping perspectives between Blue and the various Raven Boys. And because there are more Raven Boys than there are Blues, it really feels more like a Raven Boy dominated story than Blue's story. It's not what I was expecting. So the fourth book I have here is The Magicians by Lev Grossman. Quentin Coldwater is brilliant but miserable. A high school math genius, he's secretly fascinated with a series of children's fantasy novels set in a magical land called Fillory. And real life is disappointing by comparison. When Quentin is unexpectedly admitted to an elite secret college of magic, it looks like his wildest dreams may have come true. But his newfound powers lead him down a rabbit hole of hedonism and disillusionment, and ultimately to the dark secret behind the story of Fillory. The land of his childhood fantasies turns out to be much darker and more dangerous than he ever could have imagined. The Magicians is one of the most daring and inventive works of literary fantasy in years. No one who has escaped into the worlds of Narnia and Harry Potter should miss this breathtaking return to the landscape of imagination. And so when you say something like Narnia meets Harry Potter, you have certain expectations. The majority of the novel takes place in a magical boarding school, which is, I guess, where the Harry Potter aspect comes in, but it's really not like Harry Potter. It's really ugly and gritty and slow and boring. And then the very last chunk of the novel takes place in the sort of Narnia place, Fillory. Just the pacing of the novel, you think it would be a lot more about this journey into Fillory, this sort of Narnia-esque adventure, and it's really not. I think the synopsis makes it sound a lot more exciting and interesting than it is. I think as a piece of literary criticism, as a text playing with Narnia and fantasy tropes, portal fantasy tropes, I think this is a really interesting text. But I think as a story, based on the synopsis, this is a really disappointing text. And lastly, I have here The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This plot synopsis ranges both flaps of the dust jacket. I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but I'm gonna read a chunk. Welcome to Le Cirque des Rêves. Beyond the smoke and mirrors, however, a fierce competition is underway, a contest between two illusionists, Cecilia and Marco, who have been trained since childhood to compete in a game to which they have been irrevocably bound by their mercurial masters. Unbeknownst to the player, this is a game in which only one can be left standing, and the circus is but the stage for a remarkable battle of the imagination and will. And it goes on. It's a ridiculously long plot synopsis. The synopsis makes it sound like it's going to be a really fast-paced, intense novel. It's kind of a quiet story in reality. I feel like it's more about the characters and the interaction than the contest, but the synopsis really hams up that contest, which doesn't really become a thing until the very end of the novel. I just feel like based on the synopsis, what is delivered isn't satisfying. So these are the 5 books that I think have poorly designed or poorly worded, poorly laid out plot synopses. Let me know in the comments down below what is one book that you picked up based on the plot synopsis that then didn't deliver what you wanted. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye!